afternoon or good evening out there in virtual land. We are so very happy to
Yes.
present to you tonight this young lady who is an author, and I'm going to read her bio. Natalie Bailey is a Christian woman who loves the Lord with all her heart, soul, and mind. Born and raised in Connecticut, she started writing when she was a tween. Her first article, titled Fear, was published when she was 12 at a Christian camp. Since then, she has continued to write journal reflections, sermon reflections, and poetry. Several years later, her desire is to minister to people who yearn to be in rightful relationship with Christ. Apart from writing, Natalie enjoys spending time with family, reading, traveling, and traditional arts. She also enjoys working in the community and helping others by hosting self-help workshops and serving hot meals at local shelters.
Nice.
As a high school educator for the past 25 years and a college adjunct professor for the past 18 years, Natalie enjoys using cutting edge strategies to reach students on all levels to inspire a love for learning. In addition to her career, Natalie is pursuing her doctorate in educational leadership and is an online independent business owner. Wow, Natalie. You go, girl. You go, girl.
Yes.
Natalie resides in Maryland with her daughter and granddaughter, whom she deems her precious gems, and believes that her season has come for the abundant blessings of the Almighty. Isn't that wonderful?
Wow.
Yes. So we're gonna bring her in the room.
Yeah, where is Natalie? Bring her out, the star of the hour.
Yes, this is beautiful. Simply, she's gonna wow y'all when she comes.
Yes.
It's gonna
come
be
on in here, Natalie. Come on in the room.
Yes. Yeah, you're in for a treat tonight. And a lot of us can relate to her. She's young. We can relate to her. Well, I'm young plus, really, but I'm still young.
Young
plus. You go, mother.
That's a new one, Mom.
And she's beautiful, so we can relate to her.
Oh.
Intelligent. And she loves the Lord. I can really relate to that. Isn't that wonderful? We are in for a treat.
Yes.
Miss Natalie Bailey.
Absolutely. Yes.
Natalie Bailey. Wonderful.
Welcome, Nat, to Chillin with the Girls. Oh my goodness. We just heard your bio. Oh, girl.
Wow. Tremendous.
Woo, you are a busy bee, aren't you?
It was awesome. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I
can hear you now.
My mic seems like it's not going through for some reason.
Can you hear us?
I don't know why it's doing that.
Can you hear us, Nat?
I might need to sign out and sign back in because my mic it keeps muting me.
Oh wow. Okay.
Can you control the mute button?
I can control it, but it's not muted now.
Yeah, because she probably can't hear us.
Oh, you probably can't hear us.
Right.
Let me check.
Let me exit and come back in. It's not letting me.
Fine.
Okay.
Do it.
All right.
I can't hear anything.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so just give us.
Well, she's really inspiration to some of us who want to be writers. She's really she's a beautiful writer too. I love her diction. I just love her wording. Very, very highly gifted.
Yes.
And Tish, I think she has podcasts, right, Tish?
Yes, she has a podcast. I'm gonna put that. I'll put that link in there. But
That's
yeah, so we
cool.
want y'all to just, while we're waiting for her to come back on, we just want y'all to like this video, share it, because it's
Mm-hmm.
really good information that's going to help you to get through your shame, your pain, and then we're going to tell you how you can gain in life, and be successful and get over some hurdles that you've probably been through in life. So share this video.
Right. Yeah, and then walk in victory,
Absolutely. Yeah.
walk in your victory.
Yes.
Can
Absolutely.
you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
And beautiful.
I'm on my phone. I said, look, this computer is taking a minute, so I'm just on my phone.
Can you rotate your phone? There we go. Okay, that's better. So do you want me to still let you in with the computer, or you want to just say keep your phone?
I think the computer would be better, but I'll stay on the phone for time's sake.
Okay, that's fine. So hello, Miss Natalie. Welcome to our show. It was just telling the people, my mom was just explaining how she loves your writing. She said you're a wonderful writer. She loves your dictionary.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's get into that book. Oh my goodness. What's the name of it?
Shame, Pain, Gain, 7 Steps to a Turnaround.
Yes.
Okay, wow. Yeah.
Wow. So how long did it take you to write your book?
This book took me 10 years. It took 10 years because of fear. I had my journals and I used that as my stepping guard to create the book.
Right.
So it took me 10 years to go through the whole publication piece, not because I didn't want to, it was just I was afraid to share my story and put it in the atmosphere.
Wow.
Okay, so this book seems like practical applications or something, because you have 7 steps to a turnaround. So these are steps to changing your life for the better, or what exactly does that mean? Steps to a turnaround.
Well, basically the 7 steps are steps that one can take to go through a healing process. For me, these were the steps that I took to get me through my healing process of recovery.
Okay.
And it worked for me. It worked for some other people who have read the book and have given me feedback on the book. So 7 steps are really basic steps that one could take to acknowledge where they are and make a change.
Yeah.
That's good.
So when you were saying that fear, you were afraid to put your book out, what were you afraid of? What was the fear?
I was afraid of what people might say, and how I might be taken, how people might receive what I'm saying, how judgment that may come. That's what made me fearful of putting the book out there.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Because
go ahead,
no,
Tawanda. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say because how some people can hold stuff against you. Like we know that God forgives, but unfortunately, people don't forgive all the time. So I can understand that fear factor of not wanting to come forward. Yeah.
And it's something how the scripture says we overcome by the words of our testimony. When we tell people, what we go through or whatever, we get stronger, and we learn from our lessons and our mistakes and things like that. Yeah. So I think that's what, the scripture was talking about. Mom, can you expound on that?
But overcoming?
Yes.
Well, actually, that's revelatory in Revelation, that they overcame by the blood of the Lamb. But we do use it for this present day, but the context is different. But we can use it because other people can definitely benefit from what we go through. And then guess what? A lot of times they won't have to pay that price. Now we do the hard work, the writing and the suffering, all that stuff. But people, if they adhere to what other people gone through, it saves them a whole lot. We pay the price,
Yeah.
and they like get it for free. You know, they appreciate, you know, that they're getting stuff for free, but nothing is no free lunch. Somebody has to pay,
Through some stuff.
but
Yeah.
but other people just getting it free. But it's
Yeah.
a price to pay for our
Okay.
testimonies before what we go through. But it's worth it. We come out
Yeah.
so much richer.
Yeah.
It's so worth it. You're
Yeah.
powerful.
Right.
Okay.
And one thing
Does that
too, you
help?
can see. I'm sorry, Mel. Did that help you?
Oh, yes, glory.
Well, so
You
Matt,
know-
what was the process in getting your book together? Like, as far as like, what do you have to do? Like the process of getting all the pieces together for the book.
No, she probably can't hear you.
Oh, can she
can't.
hear?
I can't hear anybody.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
I think we need to stay on the
Phone.
yeah.
Yeah, we're probably going to stay on the phone.
Okay.
That's all right. We know how to work through technical difficulties in
That's
virtual
right.
land.
Absolutely.
Right.
Virtual land. That is right. Wow. Yeah.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
So I may have missed the question.
All right. I'm trying to see which one is your. I gotta mute one of them because it's echoing. So which one is
Yeah. The bottom one.
okay. So the N Bailey is the computer, right?
No, the other one, Natalie Bailey.
Okay. All right. Okay. Say something, Nat.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me? Can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Good. So what was the
Yay.
process in writing your book? I know you said it took 10 years, but how does that look? What was the process?
So the process for me involved writing. I wrote in my journal. I use what I like to call a historiography.
Mm-hmm.
A historiography is something that's used in history that kind of chronicles events that happen.
Okay.
So everything in our life is a historiography.
Mm-hmm.
So I use my journal with timestamps and all to record instances in my life.
Okay.
And I went back in time and I looked at some of those events that happened and things that I was healed from.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to use that information and put it into a book.
Okay.
Okay. Wow. One thing I was thinking when you were talking about the fear and stuff, how the enemy uses fear, because here it is. It took you all this time because you were fearful, but once it got out there, it's helping people. You know what I'm saying? And the enemy, he just makes us try to hold back other people's blessings, our blessings, as well as somebody else's blessings, so when your book finally got out there, it blessed somebody else. It helped somebody get through something that they were going through as well, so we can't let fear hold us down. We have to, the scripture says,
It's a definite touching book because I shed a few tears. When I picked it up, I just read it. I was in my bed and I couldn't even go to sleep. I just didn't stop until I finished from
That's
cover to
all
cover.
I read
Then
it.
I started sharing a few tears. It was so touching. Oh my
Wow.
goodness. Oh.
So
Yeah.
we're
I
going to get
definitely
into the book.
experienced some
But wait.
tears when I was writing the book.
Oh, I
Um,
know.
and going through some of my transitions, I experienced a lot of pain and tears and just dealing with my issues.
Yeah.
It took time to do that, but like I said, when I went to a church convocation that I was asked to speak at, I put it in the atmosphere for the first time. And that's when I actually felt like I could let go of what I was holding on to. I felt like paralyzed from not sharing my testimony. But once I had that platform to share my testimony and to put it in the atmosphere, and it was so empowering. I can remember it to this day. I was in a room and there was a session for our convocation and there were people of all ages in the room and I gave my testimony and it was such a presence of God that came over the entire building. Like people were just being delivered from
Wow.
all kinds of stuff, gambling, other addictions. There was this one man who also shared his testimony of how he had AIDS.
Wow.
And God healed him from that. And he shared that testimony. So you could just imagine the praise that it was like praise of deliverance that went up. And I just felt so liberated. I felt like chains were literally falling off of me.
Wow.
And I felt like I was freed from bondage. And I just felt like the more I spoke it in the atmosphere, the more I felt empowered to share my testimony. So I took my notes from that night. I took my notes that I had because I was also asked to share it at a single session at my church.
Okay.
And I took my notes and I said, I'm putting this in a book. And that's when I started drafting my manuscript and putting it together. And the way it came together was just, it was all God. It was, because there was another company that had been asking me for about 5 years. Ex Libris publishing company kept contacting me and asking me if they could publish my work. And I was like, no, I don't have the money. It's, so it's like, it's a lot of money to publish. So I didn't have the money and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then I saw something on Facebook that said, if you want your book to be published, contact Trinity Broadcasting Network. So I contacted TBN and I uploaded my manuscript. I said, let me just take a leap of faith and put my manuscript out there. And I got a call within like a week from Stacy Baker. And she was like, I read your manuscript and I absolutely love your story. And I can definitely see how this could be, a publication. And she, asked me several questions. We spoke by phone and it just kind of materialized from there. Everything just started taking manifest. And I was like, well, if this is really God's will for me to go with your company, then, he's going to work it out. She said, you know what, can I have prayer with you? And she prayed and she was like, I'm going to touch and agree with you so that you can have faith to get your story out there. And she was like, there's a lot of people that need to hear your story. And I was like, all right. So we prayed. And then the following week, she was like, do you think you can get the money for this publication? I was like, listen, I'm going to do what I have to do to come up with the funds. And so within that time period, she sent me the contract and, I had a lawyer look it over. And then from there, everything just materialized. It took 6 months for everything to kind of go through and be finalized. But once I got that final manuscript and they, because they sent it back several times. Once I got that final manuscript in my hand and she gave me like all the details of what's going to happen next, like your graphic designer is going to contact you and this is going to contact you and this is how it's going to go. And your books are going to be streamlined on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And so it's like, if you want it to be, streamlined through TBN, that's an additional fee, but they would do like a TV casting where they interview you live and, it goes out to all these different countries and global. And so, God, he just worked it out. And I just thank God because he allowed me to still get the word out there. Because since my book was published during the pandemic. So, receiving my books, it took a while because the printers were not really in the office. So once I did receive it, I wanted to have an official book signing, but the pandemic hampered that. So I'm still planning on having a book signing. And I thank God for he's still allowing me through social media to get my book out there because I've been on, this is about my 5th platform now where people have asked me to come in and share my book and talk about it. I did the podcasts and that was amazing. And so God is just moving. That's another thing I'm asking God to like, take me to that next level of where you want this to go. Because I know it's supposed to be in the earth somewhere. Somebody needs to be hear this. And so I'm believing him to do that.
Okay. Right. Wow.
That's awesome.
That's
Isn't
right.
it?
Right.
Wow.
Absolutely. So in your book, you have shame, pain, and gain. So what can you, I guess, explain what the shame and the pain, what that was? Could you go into detail a little detail?
Sure. So I'm going to go
because we want them to buy the book, Tawanda.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to give them the abbreviated version of it. Absolutely. I want them to buy the book
Right.
and get the details of the book, but just
Right.
a brief overview
Right.
to, give background. I'm a PK. My parents were pastors of a church, and things happened in life where my parents eventually divorced, and the church was dissolved. So that meant that, we then, as a family, we were fragmented because, once the church dissolved, that meant we had to find another church. And my mom went to one church, my dad, was doing another thing, going to another church. And then, my siblings and we went to another church. So it was just like everything was different. And coming from a pastoral background, and then having to go into another ministry, it was, I wouldn't say it was a shame, but I felt that way because
Wow.
when you're looked up in the community as a certain way and then things
Yeah.
happen, it kind of brings that, shame to the side of, well, you're a pastor or, your PKs or whatever. So
Yeah.
that was kind of like the shame that I experienced from the family point of view, because things were not the same afterwards. And, granted, things do happen.
Yeah.
Then I look at shame from another aspect of, not meeting those expectations as a PK, and my personal experience that I had with, leaving church and not
Yeah.
adhering to the church way, and just kind of doing me. And
Yeah.
so, that took a little toll on me as well, because, all I know is church. So, going out and going to college and being away from home and doing what I wanted to do at the time took me away from that experience that I had with the Lord.
Find yourself.
Exactly.
Do you think you were trying to find yourself in the midst of all that? Because the fact that your parents broke up, that was like pain too, even though
Absolutely.
it wasn't your fault, and
Right.
you still felt shame, even especially if you were in a small community and everybody knew
Right.
knew your
Exactly.
dad. And
Did you have siblings? Did you have others?
I do. I have two other siblings. Yes. Yeah. So, it was just a time in life where we were just not a family unit. And that was different, because
Wow.
I'm used to being in a 2-parent household. And then, later in life, my parents divorced when I was in college. So I was in college. My other brother was in college, but my younger brother, he was still in school, so it was just different.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
have some people talking about it right now. They said, but God turned it around and worked it out for your good. Wow, I really want that book.
Great.
I'm trying
Praise
to
the
get
Lord.
on that. Oh my, okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get on that link so I could send them the information. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. And it's on Kindle. I'm a Kindle person.
Yes, absolutely. It's on
Can
Kindle.
they see this, Tish? Can they see if I do this, Tish?
No, ma'am. We probably
No.
won't.
Sorry, I can't see it. But if Natalie holds it up, they'll be able to.
Yes.
There it is. Right
Okay.
there.
Okay.
So yeah, get it on Kindle. If you go to Amazon, they'll give you a choice. Should I get the hard copy and stuff? Yeah. And a lot of times, like a lot of PKs go through so much stuff because they're like in the spotlight. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
like when they do stuff, it seemed like to me that the pastors are harder on their kids than they are on the regular people in the church, just to say, I don't have no respected person. I know that's my child and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? But that's not always a good way to be, because children feel a certain way when you do that.
I think most parents do that. Most parents, I think, are hard on their kids than on the others. But you really wanted to walk that straight and narrow way,
Yeah. So was it the church that your parents pastored? Was it like a big congregation or medium?
We had the building itself was large. Our congregation wasn't a large congregation. It was a smaller church.
Okay.
So I would say under 100 people.
Okay.
And so, but we were in the community. So our church was in the community and central. in the community. And so it was, you know, a transition, as you know, people know you are a pastor and this is your church and all, but you know, when it dissolved, you know, where did those 100 people have to go?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You know?
I know one thing too, I was thinking that pastoring a church, you spend so much time, you know, with the members of the church that your own children go neglected a lot of times, you know, and you know, and you don't spend that much time, you know, with your children.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. You know, being a PK, you see the inside of the outside of the church, if that makes sense. So you know what's going on inside, because you know, you understand, you know, that this is church, and you have to share your parents a lot of times with the members. So that time, that family time and that balance is not always present because you're trying to serve and you're trying to do the will of the Lord. So you know, a lot that time is definitely it, if there's no balance, is definitely.
But you know, can you see where the even ministers need training in that? They need some sort of, they definitely need training to know that God is first.
That's right.
And your family is second to God. But we can't divide the church from God, and even from the ministers. Sometimes we idolize the ministers, you know, and pull them in. But but we didn't know that division. That's where it was, and to divide the family, really.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, that is so true. Yep.
And I think it starts from the head anyways, because if the pastor is teaching this message to the congregation about family, and you know, put God and then family or whatever, and then church next or whatever, what mommy was saying, they would understand that, you know, this pastor needs to be with their children, and you know, just be in place where you need to, you know, fill the void sometimes. But it needs to be taught from the head down. And a lot of times it's not, because like mommy was saying, a lot of people in churches, they idolize the pastor, you know, and they go to the pastor for everything. And you know, they think the pastor has the answer to everything, and they don't. You know, you need to seek God, you know, go to God, you know, pray about it, whatever, get guidance and instruction or whatever from the pastor, but don't go to them for everything. You know, because they don't have all the answers.
But you know what? Now the pastors need to be taught that too. Don't they have a leader, like a school or something? They need to be taught that, and then he needs covering. The pastor and then his wife needs to be covered. And sometimes they have to let you cover them and say, no, they just finished preaching. They're tired. Or they haven't started preaching, and you don't bombard their office while they're trying to get ready for the church to preach. Then after they're sweaty and tired, you don't bombard, but they're people.
I was going to say, I was going to say,
and then then we just learned lately that it's fivefold ministry. So one person, it's hard for one person to try to do everything by him or herself. You say you're the pastor, but you're not all of the head, the leadership in the church. You know, you got divided up: apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, teachers. Right. You know, it's a fivefold ministry. And when and sometimes, like I was a superintendent, they would jump over me, get to the pastor. I want to do this for Sunday school. I said, that's out of order. It's like you know, it's like a protocol thing.
Can we get a synopsis of the book? I know we don't want to tell them everything, but just to get them the juices rolling, so they can be like, oh yes, I have to get it tonight. Like,
okay. Well, let me read what's on the back of the book.
Okay.
Kind of like a synopsis. Okay. So basically, healing is something that does not come naturally unless the person wants to be restored. On the upward trajectory of life, moments come that halt growth and hinder our real truths. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Oh, it's okay.
Which prevents us from reaching the spiritual zenith that God has ordained for our lives. This book explores the inner thoughts of the after effects of addiction in any form.
Okay.
So that's kind of what it is, more of a healing process and dealing with your personal addictions that you may have.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
So in the book, do you talk about soul ties?
I do. I talk about soul ties. I talk about an experience that happened to me. And just to kind of give you some background, when people connect themselves with people that they should not be connected to, you kind of connect a soul tie, especially if you are, you know, really following the ordinance of God of having your body preserved for the spouse that you should be with. And when you connect yourself with people sexually that you should not be with, you take on forms of other people that they have been with, and you kind of possess that within your spirit. And it becomes a soul tie. And so it's something that's not talked about. People don't talk about this a lot, but it does happen. Connecting yourself with someone you should not be with creates a soul tie. And you know, people look at the forefront of, you know, having relations, but they don't look at the after effects that it causes. And so for me, I allowed myself to be open, and I had an experience one night. And again, I don't want to get too deep into it because I want you to buy the book so that you can
Right,
read
right,
it.
right.
But
Right.
you know, at the end, God delivered me from the soul tie, um, and I have been healed ever since. And I explain and I give like a description in the book of what it felt like when these demons inhibited my body, and how it took 3 preachers to cast it out. And the deliverance didn't happen right away. It took time. And I literally heard them when they were cast out. They said, we're leaving now.
Wow.
Wow.
We're
Wow.
leaving.
What?
Wow.
And then I just, you know, felt that they left, and then they left, but then they tried to come back. And one night they came back, and I was like, I'm free, I'm healed, I'm delivered, you know. And I started praying in my heavenly language, and they did not re-enter. So it's a very real thing that people don't talk about. But it definitely happens. And sometimes you're not sure why you have these attachments and these ties to people that you may have been with, and you don't understand that it creates a bond. And unless I had to pray and fast, and you know, have people pray and fast with me to get delivered from this soul tie. So it's serious.
They need to know it's a real thing. I think
Yeah.
it needs to be taught. You know what I mean? I
Absolutely.
know we talk about the Bible characters all day long, but it's time for people to get life lessons as well as the Bible too. But a lot of young people need to understand the importance of it. They get involved and entangled into sexual things, you know, and they need to know when you do this, this is what's going to happen, and this is a real thing. You don't want to be fighting that spirit, you know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you become one to that person you're tied with. It's a spirit. You
Well,
become
It
it's
is.
one.
many
You actually
people. It's
literally
many
one.
people.
And
Yeah.
Yes,
then when that one person's been with 5 other people, then
exactly.
you with like 6 people, you know.
Exactly.
So the struggle
Yeah.
gets worse
Yeah,
and worse.
spiritual
Lord have
And
thing.
that's where
mercy.
unequally yoked is more than just saint and sinner. You can be unequally
Right.
people with two
Right.
different ideas in the same building. So that's
Mhm.
serious. And then you
Yeah.
have to go through some steps. You could tell us some of your steps in
Sure.
your
So
time.
there are 7 steps that I outline in the book to bring healing. And the first step is acknowledging that you have a problem. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like going to Alcoholic Anonymous. You
Right.
have to first acknowledge that you're an alcoholic, and you have to deal with your real issues. So this is where you have to really look yourself in the mirror and say, I have a problem. And you will know for yourself when you get to the end of your rope that you
Mhm.
need to acknowledge your problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be honest. You know, and I always like to use this um, phrase by Shakespeare. He says, this above all else, to thine own self be true.
Mhm.
So this is the time when you're kind of acknowledging your current situation and admitting that you do have a situation that you need to be healed from.
Mhm.
And then step 2 is to seek spiritual counseling. And it doesn't have to just be spiritual counseling. This is what happened for me. This is my story. So I did get counseling from my pastor at the time, and I got counseling from him. And so that was more spiritual, but now you don't have to stick to just spiritual. You can get the natural counseling
Mhm.
as well. In my later life, I did get counseling for not that issue, but other things that came up. And it's very helpful, and it does help you heal and get through your process. So you want to seek that counseling that you need to help you get through the situation that you're in.
Mhm.
And the thing about it, when you have the counseling, you have to do the work. 'Cause I went
Exactly.
to see a
Yeah.
counselor and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be I'm not gonna change just by sitting around here talking to you,
Right.
looking at you in your face. She's like, you
Hmm.
gotta do it. She gave me this self-help books and you gotta journal.
Hmm.
And I can't, I don't know why, Nat, I just can't journal. Like Tawanda was like, whatever is in your mind. I'm like, there's nothing. It's like, sometimes nothing is there when you're going through so much stuff. You know what I mean? It's like I just don't know how. How do you
Yep.
journal that? Can you tell people if anyone else having problems journaling?
Well, yes, I'm definitely going to do that. For people, it's different. A lot of people, I'm a writer, so I'm a teacher by trade,
Okay.
and I write and I read. So that came naturally for me. That was one of my healing processes, and that's one of the steps that I talk about in the book too. And I can enumerate on that when I get to that step, if that's okay.
Okay. Okay,
Um,
sure. Go ahead.
so I'm on step number 3, which is confront your past. And so
Okay.
one of the things you have to do in this scripture, I love it. It says Isaiah 44:22
Mhm.
says, I have blotted out as thick a cloud thy transgressions, and as a cloud thy sins. Return unto me, for I have redeemed thee.
Ooh, that's
So you want to
good.
confront your past and anybody in your past that may have done hurt or harm to you. You want to confront them because you want to be healed from the root of
Mhm.
the problem. You don't
Mhm.
want to just put a band-aid on it. So you want to
Right.
really do some soul searching, and you
Mhm.
want to confront whatever it is in your past that you have dealt with, and you want to take your past, bring it into your present, and deal with your past in your present so you can move on for your future.
Mhm.
Because when you are not dealing with the past, then you're holding on to something that you need to be healed from.
Mhm.
I'm gonna write that
Whatever it is that shadows your past, you want to kind of clear yourself from that, and you want to deal with it head on. And then step number 4 is forgive yourself and forgive others who may have done things to you, because you don't want that seed of bitterness to build up in you, and then you're not healed because you didn't forgive. And people become sick and ill physically because of not forgiving. And
Mhm.
so that's really a real thing. So you want to forgive yourself for whatever it is, and you want to also forgive those that may have done things to you. And if they're no longer living, then you can still forgive them in your heart. And I just remember this experience that I witnessed someone have. Uh, the person just kind of like started, it was like a moment in time, and the person started crying. And I asked, like, why are you crying? And the person had released that I never forgave my parent for what was done. And later in life, that's when the person had like this catharsis and realized that I need to forgive so I can
Mhm.
be at peace with that
Mhm.
past.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you do that, because it is a very real thing.
How do
And
you
Wow.
then
do that when they're passed on already? Or
you
you
can
need
write
to
a letter
forgive
to
them,
them.
or
You
they
can
need
write,
to forgive you? You
you,
just
you,
let it go.
you forgive them as well, and you let go. Like, they can't forgive you, but you can
No.
forgive them. And you can do that through writing a letter, through, you know, going to the grave site and just talking. Like, you just need to release it and forgive the person.
because
Mhm.
forgiveness is for you anyway. It's
It
not
is. It's to free
Right.
you,
Yeah.
for you.
to
That's
free
For
right.
you.
your healing.
You're
Yeah.
freeing
It
yourself.
is.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then step number 5 is pray and fast for deliverance. So for me, I had to pray and fast. And the scripture Isaiah 58:9 says, then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, here I am. if thou take away from the midst of thee the yoke, the putting forth of the finger, and speaking vanity. And so you want to pray and fast. And that's the thing, like prayer is a language a conversation you have with God. So you want to communicate with God, and you want to talk to him about your problem. And it doesn't matter how you start. It can be 5 minutes a day. It could be throughout the day. But you do need to start and then build your muscles. And I like to equate this to exercising. Like the more that you walk, or the more that you run, or the more that you ride your bike, or the more that you lift weights, you become more flexible and pliable with your body because you're working on that muscle every day. And that's like it is how it is with prayer. You want to pray and fast and be intentional. And there are different types of fasts. You can do a liquid fast, you can do a Daniel fast, a full fast, a partial fast. Like you just want to kind of dedicate yourself to God. Like, God, I'm giving you this. I'm making this sacrifice so that I can be healed from this. And so you want to be intentional about praying and fasting. And then step number 6 was read the Bible and any other self-help materials and write in your journal. So this is when I can elaborate on what you had asked me earlier, Tish. For me, yes, I read the Bible, but I also read self-help books. So I read a lot of Ayana Van Zandt. Like she really helped me get through a lot of my moments. And I read a lot of Joyce Meyer and Bishop Jakes and just other stuff, Susie Orman, like any other book that I could find that would help me during that time to take the process and process that information. That's what I did. I just kept reading and journaling. And then for me, how do you journal? It's up to you, how you want to journal. For you, Tish, you're musical. So it might be writing a song or creating some lyrics or, something of that nature, because that's your style of writing. And so that's what you're used to doing. And for you, singing helps to deliver you and deliver people. So you do whatever is best for you. For me, I'm a writer, so I have paper everywhere. I have journals and I have sheets of paper, and I have voice recordings in my phone, and I have notes on sticky pads and things like that. Because if the Lord gives me something, I like to write down what he gives me when he gives it to me, so I can remember how he gave it to me. And then, so the journal, for me, that's how I created my historiography, which were my timestamps. I put dates on my journal when I journal, and the time. And then what was powerful for me when I was going through my process, like I had read through my journal. So I have like my side table in my office downstairs. I have journals, and I read through my journals. This is when I was in the process of writing my book. And I was like, wow, I don't even remember that I went through that. Like, oh, wow. And I started actually putting check marks off on the things that I felt like I overcame and that I had dealt with. And some things I forgot, but that's why I said it created a historiography for me. And there is a section in my book where I have like a little timeline of my journal, and I kind of like chronicle some of them to the present time. And it just kind of shows the growth. For me, was just going back and looking at that information and seeing how I had grown from that stage and that process. And so reading these self-help books and then journaling was very powerful for me, because it was uncensored. I didn't have to hide my feelings from anyone or mask how I felt, because only the pages of my journal knows how I felt, because it was totally uncensored, and I didn't worry about grammar or punctuation or anything like that. I just wrote exactly how I was feeling in the moment. And I went back in some of my journals and I realized like some of the stuff is written in like capital letters. So like that means I'm yelling, like I'm angry. And some things I have written in different colors. So it just kind of helps me process. Before I talk to anybody, I can write, and I know my journal's not going to tell anybody what I said. So I can just write my information there. And that's what helped me put my book together, because I was able to go back and pick out bits and pieces of my journals throughout the years and put it into a book. And this really is a testimony. This book is more of a testimony than it is a book. I'm working on some other ones, but this is more of a testimony. And then the last phase is surround yourself with positive people. And it could be, family, friends, church family, non-church family. It just needs to be people who are going to be positive and who are going to speak positively into your life and who are going to encourage you, during that time. Like even now, people just come up and say things to you, and they're like, just keep on going. Look at how the Lord is blessing you. You don't know how those little comments can help you get through your day or get through your week. Because sometimes, God puts people in places to say things to you. So you surround yourself with positive people, even looking at some of the things you listen to and you put into your spirit and the songs and things like that. Those things can minister to you as well. So for me, like watching a movie, I may be watching a movie and I may say, that's interesting. I might write about that and I'll journal that or write it down or do something. So those are just some ways that you can deal with processing. And those are the things that help me get through my moments.
Yeah, wow.
Just say, Tish, with your journaling, because I was thinking about you love to pray. And sometimes when I pray, when I have prayers, I write them down.
That's right.
So that can be a way of journaling as well, because you really dig deep when you start praying for people,
Absolutely.
or praying for situations or whatever. So that can be, a way that you can journal, Tish.
Absolutely.
And also she's a songwriter. And that's
what,
you write the songs. Yeah, you put And
you
now
can
how
write your
about
song.
this? You say you have people in your corner, true friends. Sometimes they won't say things that make you feel so good. But it
That's
do
true
you good.
too.
It's
But
like
sometimes sometimes it doesn't even come from your friends. It comes from total strangers. I was in a store one day and this man walked up to me and he was like, "Oh my gosh, your smile just made my day." So it could be like little things like that, or and sometimes it's not the people who you're around all the time. It's going to be people who don't even know you that kind of help you get through your moments. God knows what you need when you need it. So he'll send people at different times and you may not even know them or be connected to them, but they'll make a comment that will help you get through your day.
Yeah, I told Sammy that you would be on our show tonight. He said, "Oh, I know her. She's so sweet."
She is.
I said, she said, "Oh, I know Shouting Sam." "Oh, she's so sweet."
Who was that? Now, who was that who made that
Samuel,
comment?
my son
Shouting Sam.
Shouting Sam.
She's so sweet.
Yes.
See, your hardships sometimes make you sweet too. That really helps you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what I like when I was I just got your book, Nellie. I'm sorry. It took me a minute to get it, but I do have it now. But I did like the one section in here. I'm trying to find it again, where you started, you said something about praise. Something means praise.
Yes. So pen, that's my my term for praise.
I was going to ask about
and that's like my appendix of the book. And I have like poetry that I've published in there. I do have another book of poetry that I wrote, and it's called Dancing with Time. And I have another book that's called Theophany of Time that I wrote. That was based on like sermons that I heard and inspirational sayings and things. So I took Theophany of Time is based on sermons that I've heard and applied to my life. So I turned it into a book. And then the Dancing with Time was for poetry that I created. So that's more of the creative side of me. So I write poetry and make cards for people and things like that. So I just kind of like put that into a book and kept that separate. But the pen is like praise and present victories. And so things that I've been delivered from, peace of mind, I have inner healing, freedom to worship in spirit and truth, daily trust in God, purposeful affirmations, and experience of God's mercy, favor, his mercy and his favor despite my mistakes. So this part is really important because after you go through your change, it's like going through a metamorphosis and you're like coming out of this, your butterfly cocoon, and now your skin is growing. So like I had an experience the other day with my skin burning, and my skin actually had to reheal itself. And so when it was going through the healing process, it was scabby and scaly and it just had to regrow. That's kind of what you're doing when you go through your spiritual metamorphosis. You have these present victories. And so one thing for me is affirmations. And it starts, kind of like my church, my pastor, he gives us these yearly affirmations that we speak daily. And we speak it through the year. So I have them like on my door, I have it on my job, I have it in my car, just places to remind me. And then I wrote my own affirmations. And you want to say these into the atmosphere because you want to speak positive things into your life. You want to speak to the earth. You want to speak to the four corners of the world. And you want to bring these things to you because you're speaking them to you. You're praying the scriptures, you're reading the scriptures, you're singing the scriptures.
Right.
And so one of the things that I do is I put the positive affirmations in the book. And I also gave the readers two of my poems that I published. And one of them is called Serenity. And the other one is like an affirmation of life that I wrote. So, and then I also have a journal in the back.
Yes.
So
I love
every
that.
day, this is like for people who are like starting out on this journey. List your plan of how you're going to apply your steps. What are you going to do? And then what are you willing to do to acknowledge that you must change your current situation? Because earlier I talked about changing your situation and acknowledging that you have a problem. And then what are your plans for your current situation? And then what are your scriptures that you're going to use as the basis of your prayer? So those are just some ways to kind of get people to think and journal. And then there's a section that I put in there for like list some daily affirmations that you can use. What are some responses that you heard from God during your prayer time? What did you overcome? And you take that one day at a time. And a song that you listen to that you connect to help you. And what things that you let go of. So those are some of the things that that I have, in the book. And it's like, write a praise report and I'll give him a victory praise. And I remember, after speaking things into the atmosphere and sharing my story, putting it in the book, I remember how after that session that I shared, the praise that came forth after that, like the victory dance that came forth after that, like, thank you, Lord, for this deliverance. So that's kind of like the steps that I outline and I put in the book, and just hopefully that it will help people to conceptualize and kind of write your vision and make it plain so that you can see what your vision is and your plan and stick to it and overcome it.
Okay. So what was your song of victory, Natalie?
Oh my gosh, I have so many of them.
Just one.
Oh my.
Name one.
I like music by the Clark sisters. So I like He Brought the Sunshine. I like
You brought
Fred
the
Hammond.
sunshine. Yes.
And Fred Hammond, No Weapon That's Formed Against Me Shall Prosper.
Oh, yes.
And another song that my Bishop Jason Nelson, he has several songs that he sings about deliverance and praise and things like that. So just listening to some of those songs and praise and worship songs.
Yes.
Kind of got me through.
It took me through.
And you know what can take me through? I'm old school. Some of them old hymns. Oh, there's not a friend like the Lord. No, not one.
No, not one.
Not one.
Woo!
So I have a question.
Go ahead, Tawanda.
I have a question. What if someone's watching and they don't know they are experiencing a soul tie, how do you think they can know that they're experiencing a soul tie?
You know that you're experiencing a soul tie, because if you're addicted to something and you keep going back to it, even though you want to stop, that you are connected, because you want to stop, but you just can't. So you feel powerless, like you can't control what you're doing. So for yourself. Nobody has to tell you,
Wow.
And so I would encourage anyone who's listening to really go through the steps, acknowledge that you have a problem, and pray and fast and read self-help books and go get counseling, spiritual counseling, and really be intentional about your deliverance, because your deliverance is a personal process, and it didn't happen overnight for me. It took time. It was a process for me. But when you're at the end of your rope and when you need to change things.
Wow.
But
That's
how
good.
about this though? But you may not know when you're starting out. Maybe you could be like naive.
Well, like what she said, Mom, what was really important was that you're trying to
keep coming
stop
back.
yourself from going to doing something, and you just can't help yourself. You
Right.
just keep, so
Going
that's
back.
like a sign. That's a major sign that
And
you're
then going to God,
stuck
asking
in
for forgiveness, and
soul
I'm gonna
tie. That's
stop, Lord.
good.
Like when people say, I'm gonna
I
stop,
mean,
and all that kind of
I
stuff.
mean, with something, when you start and you don't realize you're going to be in it, is that such a thing?
Like not to start.
Yeah, before you start.
Well, that's,
I mean,
Before you
yeah.
start, don't even start.
Yeah. And see, that's the
people
thing.
can like trick you and then, just trick you and fool you or something you don't know until you're in it.
Wow. That's
Well,
crazy.
and the thing is too, when you open yourself up, you're allowing yourself to be open to
Oh.
other things
Mhm.
that may, influence what you're doing, and then you start doing things you wouldn't normally do.
Mhm.
So, and like I said, these addictions don't have to be sexual. They could be gambling, overeating,
Yeah.
lust, there's so many different things and different avenues that addictions come in.
Mhm.
So you want to kind of be, when something is happening.
And
Right.
you're trying to fill in a void. It's an emptiness.
Exactly.
That's why addictions come from voids. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like the loss of a parent or loss of a boyfriend.
Absolutely.
Anything,
Yeah.
divorce. That
Anything could
just comes
trigger
from,
that.
right. And you're trying to
Yeah.
like fill that. And so
Mhm.
when you're lost and stuff, that's why mom was telling me, don't make any major decisions when you're broken, because you can't really hear. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You can't see
You're not
clearly.
thinking straight.
Mhm.
Right.
All right. And that's
Right.
how people get into it, because
Mhm.
they're hurt and they can't see.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And they want to pacify
They
what's
want to
happening.
pacify. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
We got two more.
Wow.
We got 4 women. Oh, we're doing good. I just
That's
wanted to
so
say
good.
to the people out there, especially like in a church, like when I was depressed, I was like, oh no, I can't be depressed. I'm brought up in church. Like what is this? You know what I'm saying? So when you were talking about admit it, don't think I'm too saved to be depressed. That's not
Mhm.
the case, and it's not always the devil. You know what I mean? It's stuff that you're going through that you need to deal with.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then sometimes I just thought about the young teenagers, they try to act out on their parents and try to run away type, from their parents, and they get sucked up in that soul tie, looking for love in all the wrong places,
Yeah.
and you get sucked up in that soul tie. Before you know it, it's got you. You're overwhelmed and you can't get out,
But this was awesome, Nat. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being
Thank
on
you
here.
for having me on the show.
I was just thinking
God.
before we close out.
What?
What's that?
I'm being serious.
Go ahead.
Now, this book is something that you could probably just keep with you.
Yeah.
As a refresher or reminder, to go back to, especially since you can write in there and journal in there.
Yeah.
And just keep with you in your purse or something. So we probably need a pocket size. No, I'm just but no, you can get it on Kindle. So it's something that you could probably just take with you and just reflect every now and then, if you have a moment and reflect and just have this book with you. So I think it's a great resource for people, like, when you're going through or reminder. It's like, okay, no, I'm not going back down that road, because I remember. Where the book at? Where the book? I know I wrote that down. You know what I mean? Just to go back and make sure you don't go down, make the same mistakes again.
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful that you had me on the platform. And there are podcasts that I have available as well. So I think Tish says she's going to share the podcast, and you can listen. I go chapter by chapter in the book and just kind of talk about some of the things in the book. So feel free to listen to those and get your book on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Yes.
All right.
Beautiful baby.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you so much for tuning in to Chillin with the Girlz. We got up to like 15 people, then it went down and went back up. So people are listening. And so I want y'all on here, Tawanda Melanie Mom, to post the book on your Facebook page.
Okay.
Why you put me out there like that?
I'm the oldest. You really put me out there. I'm ancient. I'm
Post
very
it
old.
on the Facebook page, and I'm gonna put the link to that podcast because it's really
Okay.
good.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
I will, Tish.
So tune in next week to Chillin with the Girls every week from
Yes.
7 live, and go to my YouTube channel and
6.
subscribe so I can get some people.
Yes.
6 to
6
7.
o'clock, Letitia. 6
What
o'clock.
I say?
You said 7.
Oh, 6 to 7. Sorry. Okay,
And then
bye
you can
guys.
always go back.
Thank
and see
you
this
so